Hello there, my name is Claus Raasted, and I'm doing 100 innovation keynotes in 100 days. Today is number 39. Today I'm going to be talking about why it is that we get excited about the wrong sorts of innovation. So first off, a few premises. Premise number one is we all want to save the world. Some of us to a greater degree, some of us to a smaller degree, but we all want things to be good for our planet and for kind of humanity in general. Almost all of us. So just so that's settled. Second is we're excited by cool stuff. We see things that kind of appeal to us and we go, ooh, I want more of that. This is also just part of being human. What does that mean? Well, what is this? This is an exciting thing. You know why? Because this is solar freaking roadways. Now what that is, it's an invention that's a couple of years old. I think we're back in like 2013, 14 or so when this video surfaced. And when I say video, it's because they had an awesome video. I'm going to show that, and that's going to explain what solar freaking roadways is.
Solar freaking roadways.
What are they?
They're solar freaking roadways. What do they want from me? Well, they're solar freaking roadways. Okay, so actually this time, what is it? It's technology that replaces all roadways, parking lots, sidewalks, driveways, tarmacs, bike paths, and outdoor recreation surfaces with solar panels. And not just lifeless, boring solar panels, smart, microprocessing, interlocking, hexagonal solar units. No more useless asphalt and concrete just sitting there baking in the sun, needing to be repaved and filling with potholes that ruin your axle alignment on your sweet ride, bro. These are intelligent solar panels. Replaced a panel at a time if damaged or malfunctioning. They're covered with a new tempered glass material that has been designed and tested to meet all impact, load, and traction requirements. Oh, and did I mention that they're also solar panels? They generate electricity, they generate capital, they pay for themselves, and they keep paying more because we're not gonna run out of sun for like 15 billion years. That lowers the cost of energy, unlike those bills in the mail that keep going up. And it's clean energy. Everyone can theoretically drive an electric car with no pollution and a minimal carbon footprint. Can you imagine how good our cities would smell? How much healthier we'd all be? Excuse me, young man, am I being led to believe that this thing is some sort of thing? Yes, it's a thing. A real thing. And clean energy is only its primary function. Grab a notepad because this is where it gets interesting.
Welcome back. It's 7 minutes long and most of it is at this energy level. It's pretty cool as a piece of communication and of marketing. However, when I saw this, I was a little bit in doubt because this seemed cool, it sounded great, and it was presented very energetically and in a humorous way. And they managed to raise a lot of money. I think this was from a Kickstarter campaign or crowdfunding campaign, something like that. I had a little bit of doubt. So I asked CERN. And this is something that I've done sometimes. When I've been in doubt, I've asked CERN. And you might think, who's CERN? Well, let me tell you. CERN is a nice gentleman named CERN Lung-Eberhard. And CERN has a PhD in some sort of wise, save the world, future-oriented technology thing to do with energy. He's a really smart guy. He's also a special advisor at the Danish Energy Agency. So when it comes to energy stuff, CERN might not know all the specifics, but he damn well has a good overview of kind of what's happening and what's good and what's not. So I asked CERN. And what did CERN say? CERN was unimpressed. He was very impressed with their marketing. He was like, okay, that's great storytelling. But with what they were actually doing, not super impressed. And it turns out CERN was not alone about that. A couple of years later, headlines like this started popping up. Complete disaster, absolute, terrible, France's solar road, complete failure, solar roadways, expensive and inefficient, why the future of them may not be so bright. Now, this might have just been unlucky. This might have just been one thing where the world wasn't really ready for it and it didn't happen. The reality is no. This is not a lone case. But you knew that. You knew the moment I was going to talk about this, you knew that this was not a singular case. Because there's a thing we can smell it, this like excitement, this overhype about something that may be exciting, it may be cool, it may even be good, but it's not exactly the smartest way to go about business. So why is that? Why is it so hard to get support for the right innovation initiatives? Why is it so hard when we all want to save the planet? Why is it so hard to actually do it? Because the corona crisis has shown us that governments and institutions can pull out an insane amount of resources when they need to. But why are we still struggling with this sort of stuff? Well, here are a couple of reasons. But to showcase them, let's look at computers for a moment. Let's go back to this. And if you don't know what this is, I am not surprised at all. This is from a presentation covered or called later the mother of all demos. That's a pretty cool name, by the way. And it was held in 1968 by internet pioneer Douglas Engelbart. Now, what did Engelbart talk about in this 90-minute talk? You can actually see it online on YouTube if you want to. If you want kind of the not the summarized facts, but the actual primary data, it's there. You can watch it. So Engelbart talks about a lot of things we take for granted today in computing. He talks about graphics. He talks about, I think there's something about video conferencing, about inputs, there's a whole range of like stuff that we see as just a natural part of today's personal computers and phone devices and all sorts of computer devices that then was completely mind-blowing. And he demonstrates a lot of it on screen. So this is a clip from that. That was in 1968. It didn't really nothing really changed. Some people saw it, but it didn't have a huge impact right away. Now jump 16 years ahead. This is the Apple Macintosh, 1984. And it was tempting to show you the cool 1984 commercial that they produced at the time, but you can also find that on YouTube if you're interested. So 1984, the Apple Macintosh, shown here, came out. And it was great. It was revolutionary. It had a different user interface. It used a mouse. It was slick and classy and all this sort of cool stuff. Apparently, if you dig a little bit in kind of statistics and in business literature, you'll find that it didn't have a huge impact. It was cool, yes, especially for Steve Jobs and for Apple, but it didn't exactly change the world. Where this is Windows 95. It's not slick. It's 11 years later. It's essentially Mac just delayed. But when you look at kind of productivity increases due to computing, the 90s is when it really starts happening. Even though this is 25, 30 years after the mother of all demos, this is when the real big productivity boosts due to computers start happening. And why is that? Why is it that I use this as an example? I use it because I want to show that there is a harsh truth here. A harsh truth here. A harsh truth. The truth is harsh. Innovation is slow. Innovation is messy. Innovation is complex. And innovation is not sexy. And that means that this sort of process, this sort of 25-year, 15-year long processes are hard to kind of get excited about, to get us like, ooh, we see a shiny thing, and then we get excited and then we move on. Because that's what real innovation looks like. So, you know what is sexy, though?
Solar freaking roadway.
That is sexy. That's interesting. That gets me to hit the buy button. That gets me to swipe the credit card and support the project. And suddenly it has millions of dollars in funding, even though, turns out, not the best idea ever. And if more people had asked people like Sean, then they would have known that. And if you ask somebody like Sean, and there are many smart people like Sean around the planet, they will tell you, this is where we should invest. This is for every dollar you put in here, you'll get out $10 on the other way. Or for everything you do, for every effort we put in here, it'll be much, much larger reward down the road. Solar freaking roadways was not that high on that list. If you want your innovation project to gain attention, here are a couple of tips for you. Number one, you should make it understandable. It should be clear what the hell is happening. If you don't kind of make that clear, if you can't make that, then people give up already. If they can't understand what it's about, even if it's complex, dumb it down, make it simpler. Say, it's not exactly this, but it's kind of like this. Make it so people understand. If not, you've lost them already. Number two, make it plausible. If I come in somewhere and say, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to boost us by 1,000,000%, then I better have a damn strong case or I'm just going to be laughed out the door, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's not plausible, we stop listening. And our idea of what's plausible, ironically enough, is still pretty limited compared to the fact that there's so many inventions, so many technologies, so many innovations, so many new ways of doing things that we today take for granted that are completely mad when looking at them with the glasses of the past. And we still have this, oh, but can it be done? Well, you know, when container shipping kind of started in the 1950s, first test took pricing down about 95% per mile. 95%, that's a factor of 20x. But now if you come and say, hey, I can do something that's 5 times better. Well, can you really? Well, yeah. And container shipping isn't really the wildest example. There's so much stuff out there, but you still need to make it plausible or people will just stop listening. You need to make it relatable. What does it have to do with you? What does it change in your life? What does it change in somebody's life that you care about? How does this look like from a human perspective? If you can't make it relatable, you've lost your audience. And you need to make it remarkable. You need to make it so that people say, oh, I heard this thing, I saw this thing. They should mention it over dinner. They should tell a friend. They should tell their kids. They should tell their husbands. They should mention upon it. They should remark upon it. That's what the word remarkable is. It's something that is worth remarking upon. Make it remarkable. Make people want to share your news if you want your innovation project to get any traction. And finally, you should make it sexy. How you do that? There are many ways to do that. But one of them is you could add just a little bit of star power. And as an example of how to do that is from the Danish energy company Dong Energy. I know, for the English-speaking among you, Dong Energy, let's not get into why that's funny, but Dong Energy is a Danish energy company, and some years back they partnered with the Danish national football team, very, very well known, very beloved, very hyped, to produce commercials. And they became their main sponsor, or one of their main sponsors, and they produced commercials showcasing their energy in a completely different way. And when they stopped that sponsorship quite a few years later, they had been very, very happy with having it as during the process, because they got to show the Danes what they did in a completely new way, even though it might be said that energy production and football are not like closely related. They decided to make energy sexy. And as somebody who saw a lot of those commercials, it worked. Here's an example of what that looked like, just a short snippet. Pretty cool, huh? Welcome back. So the sad fact is this, and that's what I want to round out with. The sad fact is making an innovation that's going to save the world, having an innovation that's going to change the world, it's not enough. It should be, but that's not how we work as human beings. So just because you've got something brilliant, just because you've got something that can alter the course of human history, and you might, it's not enough. We don't work that way. Even though, of course, people like Sean would love it if we did.